My secret, just do something that ain't nobody ever done before, but make it sound like something that's always been there forever.
Welcome to This Filipino American Life, a podcast that explores the nuanced experiences of Filipinos in the United States. At iba pa. This is Elaine Delalas, and I am joined with my fellow co-hosts,
Joe Bernardo
and Ryan Carpio.
And on this mini episode, I always forget, and
Mike.
producer Mike,
your husband,
my
Mike.
husband, who I always forget when he joins us. Sorry, Mike. On this episode, we're going to talk about accents.
What do you mean by accents?
What do I mean by accents? So, we live in California, and I think we don't have an accent.
We totally do.
But I'm sure we totally do. But when we talk about Filipino accents in this episode, I mean Filipino accents.
Mm-hmm.
And why do Filipino Americans love talking or using a Filipino accent? Like, why do we always go right into it when we say accent?
I don't know. I like doing the accent all the time.
But he's already dead. Throwback.
I grew up doing it all the time.
But did you
Why?
know you were
I don't
doing
know. It was just so it was just funny to me. But
Okay.
I don't know if it was just funny to me, but it's just more complicated. It's very complicated.
I understand. I did it whenever I was at a Filipino store or in a Filipino restaurant because it felt like the cashiers or the workers never understood me.
Who are Filipino?
Who are Filipino.
So it was utilitarian for you.
Yeah. So for me, if I talk like this and I'm ordering food and be like, I would like the longanisa and eggs and rice. And they look at me blank face like, what did you say? And then if I flip it and be like, can you please have the longanisa and the itlog and rice? They would be like, all right, I get it. And then they would just put it in my styrofoam container. So it's very much like, that's why I did it. Also, it got me a lot of discounts.
Yeah.
Not going to lie. There's this restaurant, I guess I'll mention it, Aling Neris. They have the best chicken.
Yes.
Cracked chicken that we love. And I remember for an event when I had an old job, we had Asian smorgasbord for our event. And so I was in charge of getting lumpia. And I went to Aling Neris to get it. So I called and I was like, hello, ma'am. This is Elaine. I'm calling from USC. And I would like to order a tray of lumpia, a large tray. And then she talks in Tagalog to me and I answer her in English. And I was like, oh, kasi my friend is Lolit. And I just said her name and she knew who I was talking about.
You're dropping names.
You're dropping names. And she's like, oh, okay, we'll give you the tray for, and then she gave me like another price because she was quoting me like,
I think that's because of Lolet and nobody else.
And so that's why I do it, because like sometimes it just feels like it'll help me in the long run.
So we're actually joined by my wife again, Girly.
Hi,
so she has something to
Girly.
say about this.
Hi.
Accentuate.
So I used to do fundraising for a Filipino American organization. Actually, I guess you can technically say two. But I would like bust out the accent too when I would be on the phone, and it sounds like, I would get somebody who speaks Tagalog on the phone, and I would speak this way, and they would have no idea what I'm saying.
They're like so confused.
Yeah, no response. But then I turn on an accent, and they're like, "Oh, hello, ¿Cómo está?
How can I help you? What do you need?
How do you say 20 in Tagalog?
20.
20?
20. That's a shout out to my brother
Filipino
Ray.
joke episode? Or?
So
That's a future one.
Chicken bread.
well, so the whole like 20, right? Like even that accented English with a Filipino accent. So it's kind of like what Elaine
Yeah.
was saying and what Girly was saying. I used to work in like public service, and a lot of Filipino Americans would call our office, asking for help, and they would point it to me, which is fine. And I had one conversation. I didn't even realize it. I went into full accent mode, whatever you want to call it. But my hello became hello, right?
Hello.
My name is Ryan, right? And then became like this very clear, distinct difference of what I normally talk like.
So
which is
how
like this.
is it?
Well, what I thought was I thought I was speaking Tagalog. And my colleague who had a cubicle next to me said, "Man, you just had a whole conversation in English." And it was in an accent. And I said, "I did?" And, because all I was saying was,
You didn't know.
call this number. Oh, call this number. And I would add like a po there and stuff. And then my numbers would be like 818. And so there was like as a very sing-songy, very, very like...
You use some of the imitation. Yeah.
But like the way she responded to me was kind of like with Elaine. She responded in Tagalog and she said, "Thank you. Oh, may Pilipino pala dyan." She was saying all this. And I said, "Oh, yeah. Filipino. I'm Filipino." Right?
Yeah.
Everything I said was in English, numbers, but all accented. Didn't realize it. And I think it was it's definitely a comfort level for some Filipinos.
I think it is because there's like an intimidation factor with using English. And like even in high school when I would go to the Point restaurant, like it was just and my mind knew you have to talk in an accent or bust out what little Filipino you know.
Right. Yeah.
Because the people behind the counter will be like, "I have no idea what you're saying."
Right.
Like we were just in New Orleans and I was buying a fan because it was really hot, a pai. And the person I bought it from, she looked Filipino and I heard her accent. And I said, and I was like, my brain was like, you have to ask if she's Filipino because you have to give her a TFAL postcard. And so I was going to say, "Are you Filipino?" Like, "Are you Filipino?" But then my brain was like, "No, you say it in Tagalog." And I did. And I was like very proud of myself because I have limited Tagalog skills. But I said, "Filipino ka ba?" And I did that. And the lady, she's Ate Molly was her name. Ate Molly was so funny. She just starts laughing because she's like, "I was going to ask you." It was really sweet. And then she said yes. And, we had
But you spoke in an accent the whole time.
But I spoke in an accent the whole time. And it was just like, it's like it's intuitive to do that.
Yeah. Okay, but so that's kind of more communicative or utilitarian version, right?
Yeah.
Way of speaking in accent. How about someone like Rex Navarrete or like Joko or Joey Gila, who use it in comedy or in jokes? Is it making fun or mocking accents?
I don't know.
I mean,
it's busy.
It's BC.
My bitches.
I guess there's always humor, cultural humor in the way, let's take away the accents for example, but there's always funny things in puns, right?
We
what
do
we
like
Very
puns.
funny.
Yeah, exactly. And someone just
Did Mike just
snorted.
snort?
Elaine, I snort when something's funny. I couldn't stop.
So there's definitely a humor aspect to how we twist words and all that. So, and I guess in the accent form, a lot of the the reason we find things funny, I think, is because they just sound funny, but some of them are puns, right? Like the way we did the bucket list, right? Oh, is that funny? Oh, it kind of is because it's bucket and bucket, right? And all that. So outside of that, I think in stand-up comedy or even in humor, I find it sometimes funny. I think, but then it goes into what if other people do it, right? Like a Russell Peters, right?
I don't.
But he's so good. He's good at it.
He's so good
at it.
Like, oh God, this guy's Filipino.
When he does his karaoke bit, I was like, yes.
Or even Drake
Yes.
when he did the Manny Pacquiao imitation. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Because he's from
really good.
Canada. There's
Yeah.
lots of Filipinos there.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Shout out to our Canadian listeners. Canadian listeners.
From Canada.
Or Canadian.
So,
Everybody in Mississauga, because that's where they all are.
but I do think some of it. I would say most of it it's funny if it's done right, and I think some of it is also communicative because we can relate to it. Our parents speak that way sometimes, you know. Yeah.
And I just think, well, for me, like when I think of humor, I always think of like my Filipino uncle, right? And like just
Tell us
things,
a joke, Joe.
just things, and like what Filipino uncles say, or you're trying to explain it to like other Filipino Americans. It's only good. It's only funny in an accent,
And that's true,
right?
That's true.
So like,
Is that you?
for example,
Oh, we're gonna get into it.
so like one of my uncles, he told me a joke, and he said, "Oh, Joseph, I have a weight problem." A weight problem? He goes, "Yeah, I can't wait to eat." So like,
Because if you said that in the
you said that in the American
can't wait.
English.
I'll try.
It wouldn't.
Let's do it right now. Joseph,
Yes.
I have a weight problem.
What kind of weight problem?
I can't wait to eat.
Yeah. see?
Yeah.
So like that humor, that Filipino humor, is really only good with an accent. Like
That's true.
And then to us, it's very familiar too. Like
Yeah.
second generation, a lot of second generation Filipino Americans understand Filipino accents.
Right.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of like the vernacular,
Yes.
almost to a point, right?
Right.
And so you could relate to other Filipino Americans because of that accent,
Right.
and you kind of grow a community because of that.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So it's hard to think that it's offensive, but then again, sometimes I think, well, you know, there are stories where, you know, people are discriminated. Filipino Americans are, you know, are discriminated against because of their accent. I remember my dad told me, or my mom would tell me, that my dad was quiet a lot of times because he felt like, you know, people were judging him because of his accent.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast. I've told it to a bunch of friends before. Like, I remember being a little kid and my dad would answer the phone and he would use what I called his white voice.
Oh,
And I was really little and he answered the phone and he goes, "Hello? Yes, this is Dodge." Yes.
This is Dodge.
That's my dad. That's my dad.
This is Dodge, see? Hey there, see? American from the 30s,
my
huh?
dad is not from the 30s, but that's how he would answer the phone. And I think I was a kid and I asked him, I'm like, "Why did you talk like that? Like, who are you?
Yeah.
Where did my dad go?" And he's like, "That's how I talk at work." Because at home, my dad would have like accent with my mom. Even if they're speaking English, there's some like inflection. And I was like, very confused. Like, does my dad have two voices? What's happening?
Yeah, both of my parents worked for the government, so they definitely had their like professional voice. But then, you know, when they spoke English, even around us as kids, like they would have more of an accent than they usually
They
would.
totally do.
And I think part of it was just because they felt like it would make us feel comfortable. So, I mean, I think it was just a matter of, you know, being Filipino in a Filipino space versus being Filipino in a non-Filipino space, and
Yeah.
just trying to negotiate and navigate that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, like, I think also because my parents came when they were really young. My mom was 17 when she came here. And so she really didn't have as much of an understanding even of like Tagalog really compared to like people who have like come here like later in life. And so like even when she watches the Filipino channel, she doesn't quite understand everything. But yeah, once it comes in like a Filipino accent, even if it's in English, it makes more sense to her overall.
But then, just going back to the comedians, I mean, if a non-Filipino was doing a Filipino accent to say a joke, would that have the same context?
Like Russell Peters.
But I feel like with Russell Peters, I give him a
'Cause he's
Filipino pass because I give him a Filipino pass because
Because
he's
he's Asian?
Asian. He's Asian American, and like he doesn't just do that to Filipinos. Like his Thai accent is on point, and his Chinese accent is also on point, and his Indian accent is gonna be on point because he's Indian.
So
But
I guess if you do it well, do you get a pass?
well, there's that one. I don't know if she's white, but there's one comedian who did like the nail salon, like the Vietnamese- Angela Johnson.
Angela Johnson.
I don't know what ethnicity she is, but I gave her a pass because I was like, that accent is really
Yeah, I think if you
good.
do it well, like there's like
Yeah.
those videos of those white guys who speak perfect like
Right.
Tagalog because I guess they go to
that's
school in the
c-
Philippines.
That's complicated because they're missionaries. There's another,
Okay,
there's
yes,
another
yeah.
layer to that.
Let me go ahead, Joe.
But do we, like when Fil-Ams do it, is it mocking? You think? Like, are we just making fun of their English?
I don't.
And
know.
we do that because we have a Filipino American privilege.
I wonder, because I feel like there's always not a stigma, but there's a separation between like new immigrants and Filipino Americans. And Joe and I, we saw that. Remember, we went to the Eraserheads show, and as we were leaving, like a show that we were all high off, like singing Eraserhead songs, like "All About Love," a group of Filipinos got into a scuffle in the street. One was Fil-Am, the other were Filipino, I would say, immigrants, and they just started yelling and fighting with each other. And I feel like there's like, because of the stigma of like, or they like some kind of, I don't know what it is, but
I mean, there's a tension there.
Yeah.
I mean, having worked at both SIPA, Search and Involve Filipino Americans, and at Filipino Worker Center, you know, there's a divide, and I think like for especially if you're younger and you have an accent, there's kind of a wanting to shy away from kind of interacting with folks that don't have that accent or experience.
Yeah.
And there's always, even at SIPA, I would see the kids not hanging out with each other and, you know, use pejoratively the term fob against each other and those kind of things. And so there's kind of this natural kind of separation and feeling like that accent represents something, some otherness that kind of, you know, creates some tension, I think, in some ways.
How do you feel about using fob? Like, do you I use it to describe myself
I use it to describe myself.
all the time.
Well, because I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what it meant at first, and so I didn't know what you know, fresh off the boat. I'm like, whatever. But I knew that people. Well, so that's part of what I want to get into. Like, I came here when I was 7, and I definitely had an accent coming here. Definitely didn't want to answer the phone, you know, because I was scared of what it might sound like.
Listen to the first
Right.
episode.
Yeah. So in school, after 1 year, I remember someone specifically telling me, it was my 3rd grade teacher. She's also Filipino, and she said, "Wow, your accent is, I think, gone," is what she said, and I didn't know what that meant. I was like, "Oh, okay." So, but she's like, I think she was trying to compliment that I've adapted well.
Oh, like
And-
you've assimilated.
Yeah, I've assimilated well, and but your accent is gone. Or people when I was younger have told me, "Oh, you speak Tagalog? It doesn't sound like you speak Tagalog based on how you speak English." I'm like, "How did you assume that I didn't know how to speak Tagalog based on how I spoke English?"
I could see why people would say that about you, though.
Why?
Because your English is like, it sounds like a Fil-Am who's been here their whole life.
Oh, okay.
Like me, I guess.
Yeah, but then you've been here your whole life.
So
but then
Mike-
sometimes you bust out with some weird like Filipinoisms.
So
Yeah.
this is why I say I fob out, because Mike gets mad at me because I learn words through reading, and then I pronounce it in my mind. And apparently, when I pronounce it in my mind, there is a Filipino accent. Okay, so this is. I will give you an example. When I was working at a previous job, I had to I had to mail out incentive prizes, and so I'd have to write their name. And there's this person's last name was spelled Pergason. How would you pronounce that?
Perg
Ason.
Ferguson. Pergason.
I asked my boss, where does this Pergason person work? And my boss, who is Hapa, she's from her dad was from Hawaii and her mom's from Ohio, so like that's not an unusual tone to her.
Sorry.
But she looked at me. She gave me the funny look, like she gave me the what? The what did you just say? And I was like, Pergason. And so she said, Ferguson. I'm like, yes, Ferguson.
Ferguson.
Where's Ferguson?
Ferguson, see?
Where does that person? Yes, where's this office? Where do I deliver this?
Missouri.
And then,
Ferguson, Missouri.
oh my god.
Wow, that's extra meta.
True. Okay. But like there are other situations where that happens, and Mike will always call me out and he'll say, "But you've never even been to the Philippines. Why do you have that?" And I'm like, in my brain. It must be in my brain.
No, because that's the way our parents taught us.
Okay.
Right?
What did we just have? What did we just eat? That's the El Salvadorian food.
Pupusas.
Cacats.
Stupid. So we had pupusas.
Yes.
One time, I don't know why, my brain must have just was on the fritz, and I said, "Poo sauce." Like I was just reading it, and I think my brain reads in a Tagalog, in a Filipino accent.
I did too. Growing up, growing up, I used to call a mustache a mustache.
Okay.
Until friends corrected me.
And
I
then,
still do.
Yeah.
Bigote?
And then
I say
salmon,
bigote.
bigote.
I said
Right?
bigote.
And then I used to say like salmon. He says salmon.
Oh yeah.
And then when you go to school, then they correct you.
Yeah.
Or they
Yeah.
make fun of you, and then
I-
you correct it.
In
right?
second grade, I got made fun of when I would say Santa Monica Beach. I mean, I would say Santa Monica Bitch. And that was, I was in second. Remember it till this day. A few people know this story. Where did you go this weekend, Ryan? Tell us about it. So I'd say, Mom, this weekend, my family and I went to Santa Monica Beach. And then the class just went, I'm like, no one's been to Santa Monica Beach. I went to the beach. Sorry. Did you guys go to the beach? And everyone was just like that's a bad word. And so my teacher was like,
beach is a
you
bad
mean
word?
beach? And I said, bitch. And he said, beach, bitch. And that was what my second grade life was. And I got made fun of it for it.
Oh.
And I guess that's how I, quote unquote, lost my accent. But
Oh.
I do that still. Like, I have family that live in Santa Clarita, and I mean, we were just with my dad, and he said like with the city where they're from. My dad says it, Valencia. It's Valencia, but I grew up calling it Valencia.
Yeah.
So I would
It's like
get
called Vallejo.
okay.
Vallejo.
So in my head,
La Cienega. Banuis.
but like I grew up when someone told me like you have cousins in Vallejo, I was like, okay, Vallejo, and I know how it's spelled. And then someone said it like, how do you say Vallejo?
Vallejo.
Vallejo. I was like, what? Vallejo.
Vallejo.
There's two L's. You have to do that Elia thing. Vallejo. There's a J. It's a ho.
And the funny,
Ho.
the thing is, a lot of us still do it, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
like
yeah, for sure.
Like what do you call like a Filipino girl getting her cotillion?
A debut.
Debut, right? But it's debut, but no one calls it debut.
Yeah.
Everyone says, "Oh, I'm going to my niece's debut."
Yeah.
Right?
You're right. But I think it's probably a Filipino word, debut, right? No?
No.
Wow, Ryan.
Hey.
Ryan.
Relax.
Ryan.
They're not called debutantes.
Debutan.
If they were, that'd be kind
Well,
of
you know
amazing.
what? I would say to whoever is in charge of the Filipino dictionary, make it a Filipino word.
Debutant?
Why not?
So, Girly, what's your brother's name? Your youngest brother.
Alan.
What does everybody call him?
Alan.
Oh my God.
Right? And then I have a friend whose brother-in-law is Brandon, but everybody calls him
Brandon.
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 But like you
We
can't
do it. We knew how to say it.
But nobody says like they feel weird saying Brandon.
Right.
Okay. In college, I had a friend. Her name was Karen. Spelled Caren. And I thought about it, and I'm like, Karen, did your parents mean Karen? And she just was like, Karen. I think so. And I'm like, oh, okay. I get it. And then it's also like my Ate Kari. So I call her Ate Kari. Her name is Carissa. Her high school friends called her Carrie. I can't say Carrie with a straight face because it sounds weird. Like Carrie Fisher, I can say that because that's her name. But my ate, she's Ate Kari.
Kari.
Kari. My ate Leia. It's not like Leia, Leah, Leia. Like,
Well, Leia and Leia sounds the same.
well, I guess. But Kari, it's very like, oh, that accent is there.
So speaking of accents, there are a lot of people who have banked on the Filipino accent, right? Who've actually who've gotten money using the Filipino accent. So people like Rex Navarrete, right? People like Happy Slip. Christine Gambito, right?
Yes.
They use the accent. And there's this new person, Mikey Bustos,
Yes.
who uses an accent in his comedy and has actually moved to the Philippines to do a lot of stuff.
He's moved to the Philippines?
He's Canadian, right?
Yeah,
he
Filipino-Canadian.
did Canadian
Yeah.
Idol, I think.
Yeah,
Back then.
and then he became talent.
He became talented.
I mean, his talent was discovered through YouTube and became viral, and then now he does commercials in the Philippines, and he uses his accent, but it's like one of the worst accents I've ever heard. Like it's not that good. And
What's an example?
I mean,
So are you offended that it's not good?
I don't know if I'm offended. I'm just
You want it to be good, right?
If it's not
I
good, it's
kinda-
like mocking in some way, maybe.
I kind of want it to be good. I know. I think I know what you're saying. Yeah, I want it to be good too. Because if you're gonna, I don't know if it's all of a sudden becomes acceptable that it's. But I mean,
one time at a family party, I think just because I was bored, I just started singing karaoke, but with like a Filipino accent, like the best version I could have at the time when I was in high
What
school.
song were you singing?
I don't know, just your usual like ballad kind of song.
So what's
But in like a very like deep kind of mocking
that.
Filipino accent. But then I was doing it for so long. After a while, my mom was like, "I think you're starting to get offensive now." I was like,
oh
Your mom called you out.
And also, she was saying like, now you sound more Indian than Filipino. I was like, oh, okay. I think I'll stop at that then. But I mean, I think like at one point, once like the hilarity of it kind of it crests. After a while, it's like, oh, now you're just making fun of us.
wow.
You know.
But sometimes I feel like it's they my family did it to like our white relatives, like when most I don't know most I'm not gonna generalize it, but we have like white people who have married into the family, and we had like. For some reason, I think my parents or my family, my aunts and uncles had a test, and it was like, "Hey, white guy, read these jokes." The jokes are written in English, but then when you say them out loud, I forgot what it was, but like it's funny if you're Filipino.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's like "Estachu," that type
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah, yeah.
Like, what was the other one that you whatever?
Chicken bread.
Chicken bread.
Chicken nut bread.
And so like they had him read it, and like my whole family would laugh, and he would be like, "What is so funny? I
Yeah.
don't understand." And
Well, and the thing is, Tagalog speakers make fun of Fil-Ams who can't speak Tagalog
Oh,
and
yeah.
speak in an accent or
Yeah.
whatever.
It goes the other way.
it goes the other
Um,
way too.
Yeah, but then it goes the other way. But in a sense, I would say Filipino Americans have more privilege.
oh, totally.
But anyways, going back to Mikey Bustos, like I like some of the content he has.
Yeah.
You know, like he challenges the whole colorism
Yep.
in the Philippines, which is actually kind of cool. He has this whole little bit about Philippine provinces. But most of the stuff is like,
Like you could do it without the accent. It'll
Yeah.
be equally
Yeah,
as
it
funny.
would be
Exactly.
funny without
Yeah.
that "I Am Filipino" song would have been fine if he did it without the accent.
I got like 5 white people send me that link going, hey, this
Exactly.
guy's funny, right? I'm like, I guess so. I'm like, what are you watching?
I hate it when people like forward it to me. I'm like, it's not that funny.
I'm like, he's kind of nodding. Oh, yeah, okay.
His accent's horrible. And it's like PCA humor from like 20 years ago, right?
But if you're listening to us right now, Mikey
Yeah, but Mikey
Bustos,
Bustos, if you want to come on this Filipino American Life, we would gladly talk to you.
We could give you some accent tutorials.
But he's already dead. See, that wouldn't have been funny if it wasn't an
Exactly.
accent,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He's
you're right.
already dead. Okay, make sure you listen to this podcast in order. You won't get that joke.
What else? What else? Oh, but like with the accents, like we were saying, we talked about block rosaries
Yes.
Oh yeah.
in the previous episode, and like Joe, you what did you think it was?
Black rosary.
That's right. But
Because
see,
it goes around the whole block.
but it's funny, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. It's a humoristic kind of like it. We found it kind of hilarious. It wasn't like an offensive thing.
Yeah, I think there's a fine line. I definitely do think Filipino Americans do have this certain, privilege, whether like citizenship / class privilege, and yeah, but other times it's really funny.
Yeah.
you know.
I think it depends on like where it's coming from, right,
Yeah.
maybe, and the context and everything else.
Yeah.
As with everything, I guess. But,
Yeah, that's true. So, this is kind of do with accents, but not really. Have you grown up with your parents like calling things certain things, and then you end up referring to those things?
Yes.
Like
and then end up
wrongly?
wrong? Yeah, wrongly, right?
Yes.
I'll
So
have to
like,
think about it. But
get your rubber shoes, right? Put on your rubber
Yes.
shoes.
yeah.
Yes.
Or let's go eat the pizza pie, and then
Or pizza pie.
Pizza pie.
Pizza pie.
Oh, my mom is
And then-
notorious for saying that.
let's go to the movie house. After.
My mom calls pizza pizza pie.
Pizza pie. Yeah.
We have a priest named Father Pizza, and she calls him Father Pizza. And my brother would go nuts. And my brother's like, how can you not pronounce pizza and pizza? Why do you switch them around? I think she overcompensated. Hi,
Oh,
Mom.
Speaking of overcompensation, have you heard Filipinos who try to hide their accent? But
Yes.
Use a British accent?
No, not that much.
I don't understand how you could go from one to the other.
No, it's like this hierarchy of accents, right? Like-
They skip one.
Yeah, they skip American, they go straight to British.
Let's go even further. Let's go with the first.
I can't imitate it. I for the life of me, I
Because
can't.
you're gonna be like, "Hello, governor."
Well, I know some.
Kumusta, governor?
I know some who overcompensate for the different letters like V and B and F.
Oh yeah.
And that
How
makes
do-
me
Oh,
laugh.
called the Feliz.
Yeah, like, what's your favorite color? Purple. I'm like, no, it's actually purple. It's fine. You can use the P's in this time.
I've never heard furful.
You've
I have now.
I've heard purple.
I went to the Filipino bakery and this person was ordering, person in front of me was ordering empanadas. And then she was like, "Oh, she acted all suplada."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, can I get the chicken, the beef, the fork?"
Yeah. Right. They overcompensate.
Wait, four?
Yes, the
You want a
fork.
spoon with that? No, the fork.
And then, but the funny part was just like she was just so suplada.
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
You gave her the side eye. You're like, you could have just said, "Can you please give me the chicken, the beef, and the pork?"
Yeah.
It would be fine.
the fork.
It's overcompensation. Can I get the purple fork?
Yeah, let's grow purple pork.
Putang ina mo.
I'm like, did you just invent ube lechon right now? What's
Hey,
happening?
it's a half-baked idea, Joe. That's gonna.
Oh my gosh.
Ube lechon.
Crossover.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
So, accents.
Accent.
It's complicated.
It's complicated.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of things that we call something like Kleenex, but that's normal.
Yeah, that's
Xerox, Colgate.
No, that's normal.
Well, so Joe does this really funny thing too, where he can actually identify the region where people are from based on their accent. Can you
What?
guys do that?
Oh, so I'm glad you brought that
Like
up.
in the Philippines or
Because-
from LNL?
This is probably where,
Like I could tell between the valley and Long Beach.
I'm glad Girly brought it up because our parents do the same thing. Like
Yeah.
regionally
Yeah.
in the Philippines, there's like different accents.
Yeah.
And it's also the way they speak.
Yeah.
Like kapangpangan.
They're loud. What? That's the
We need to do a regionalism.
But
That's
isn't there? There's like a
That is the
there's like,
truth.
and they also find humor in
Yes.
that, right? Like in I think it's kapangpangan where there's like usually an added H in different kind of
Yeah, I think so.
or a elimination of the
And
H sound or
for like Boholano, when they speak double L's, it's a J. Like
okay.
Vallejo would be Vallejo.
Oh really?
That's how yeah.
In Kapampangan?
No, in Boholano.
in Boholano?
Like that's a Boholano version of Bisaya.
right.
Yeah.
So there's definitely
Yeah.
we got it from somewhere. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just face it. My parents make fun of different kinds of accents all
Yes.
within the Philippines.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could.
So-
Yeah, you could tell, especially Visayan accents when they speak English.
Mhm.
I could tell like they have a different accent.
Mhm.
I can't describe it.
So could you tell with my dad?
We'll only talk to it for a little
Okay.
bit,
Yeah.
so
Maybe you
a
should
little
talk to him
longer.
more.
Yeah, and then you could just you know it doesn't have to be like in Bisaya or in Tagalog.
Right.
It could be in English and then I could like pick it up. It's like, oh, that doesn't sound like Manila Tagalog,
Right.
Or
Yeah.
Manila accent, you know. But yeah,
Yeah, good question.
Good job. I was like, you can tell people from San Diego? Oh my God, Joe, that's amazing.
San Diego?
San Diego.
San Diego. Yeah.
Can you tell if someone's from Oxnard? Is it because they talk about strawberries and good
They're
hair all
sexy.
day? Roll my eyes.
I could tell by the clothes that people wear, but then that's why you should be stereotyping.
I don't think it has anything to do with accent.
It's like American Eagle, huh? So you must be from.
Oh.
Not gonna say.
So if you wear American Eagle and you like this Filipino American life, you can hate on Mike. Tweet at us at TFAL Podcast. We're at like us on Facebook. What else do we have? Send us your AZN pictures for AZN143637, the Instagram account.
Yeah, we'd like to also give a big plug to the play short plugs, like in a project, short plugs,
Like hair plugs?
hair plugs. This play called Bloodletting. It's a play by Bonnie Alvarez, directed by John Lawrence Rivera. It's gonna be playing at the Playwrights Arena at Atwater Village Theater. It's playing from October 27th through November 21st, 2016. It's actually done by a playwright who has done a play about call centers.
Ooh.
And me and Girlie watched it a while back, and it was really good. And so I'm really looking forward to this play coming up right here. More information, you can go on bloodlettingplay.brownpapertickets.com. And I'm sure they have some kind of social media presence, but it's not on their flyer.
Check it out.
I lived in Atwater Village, and when we moved there, I thought it was Hot Water Village. Not kidding. Not kidding at all.
Wait.
Shout out to Julie Wong if you're listening, because she cracks up every time.
Did you wait?
thought
So
it was
as a
Hot
child, did
Water
you say,
Village.
"Hello, my name is Ryan Carpio, and I'm from Hot Water
Yeah.
Village"?
Well, no, I never thought of it as. So there's an elementary school that I was gonna go to named Atwater Elementary School.
So you said
I thought it was Hot Water Elementary. I'm like, oh, it's funny here in the States. Hot Water Elementary.
It's like I made it.
I'm like, all right. Hot Water.
Oh my
I'm
God.
in America.
Oh my God.
Hot water.
So when you saw the street Cold Water Canyon, were you like, there's
It's
a
the
hot
opposite
water
of
and
the
a hot
Hot Water
water.
Village. Cold Water Canyon, Hot Water Village, everything.
That is the opposite and opposite.
And that's it.
So
And yes, accents. Thank you.
accents are the best, and I will do them all the time.
Good job, Joe.
Thank you.
All right, and
Bye.
we're out.
Bye.